Hey everyone, Ryan from Ebike Escape, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the Himiway Zebra Step-Thru, so let's get into it. Before we get into the walk around of the Himiway Zebra, if you are looking to purchase any of the models offered by Himiway, be sure to check out the link in the description below. If you click that link before you make your purchase, it really helps support Ebike Escape and makes videos like this one possible. I'll also include links to our popular electric bike accessories list, top e-bike brands page, and finally our electric bike discounts code page where we track all the deals on the electric bike brands that we follow. With that, let's get into all the components and the specs of the Himiway Zebra. Now, this is one of their newer models, I believe first announced in later 2021, and they're starting to ship these bikes out. Now, there are some differences between their ever popular Himiway Cruiser, which I'll try to call out, but this is the Zebra Step-Thru. You can see there's no top bar there. Now, I asked for this bike for review, of course, because I wanted to showcase the accessibility, and I also like to test out how some of these Step-Thru frames fit a taller rider like myself. I'm 6 feet tall, and I did find that there's a little bit more adjustability if I needed to raise the seat higher. So I find that this bike actually fits me pretty well as someone who is 6 feet tall. With that, let's get into the components here. Let's first talk about the brakes. One of the nice upgrades we have here is Throttle hydraulic disc brakes. We have Throttle 180 millimeter rotors, and then of course the actual caliper here. Really familiar with Throttle. I find their hydraulic disc brakes perform really well, so really happy to see that. Especially on an electric bike that costs $2,000, you can really expect that most e-bike brands are going to include hydraulic disc brakes, but that's not always the case. Now, this is a fat tire electric bike, so we have 20 by 4 inch Kenda tires, and they do have some tread on them. Of course, you can take these off-road very easily, and one of the nice things is with fat tires you can lower the pressure and get some additional comfort. I also like that they have the reflective sidewalls just for additional visibility. Now, this bike does come fully outfitted. You can see we have plastic fenders up here, and we also have this newer front light. I haven't seen this exact light on any other model except for, I believe, the KBO Ranger has a very similar front light. Now, with most of these front lights, I find that they don't offer a ton of visibility during the day, although if you are lined up perfectly, these lights are actually pretty bright. So if you're riding a lot during the day or doing commuting, I always recommend rechargeable lights on the handlebars, put them in flashing mode. Though at night, these are going to definitely offer some increased visibility, and you also have a reflector up front as well. Adding to the comfort on this electric bike, we do have a front suspension with lockout. And I'll go ahead and push on the front suspension so you can get an idea of what to expect. And there is also a preload adjustment on the left side. Pushing on the front suspension, definitely going to add some comfort to your ride. Of course, if you take it off-road, even more so, and you can lock it out if you are riding on pavement as well. I always like to point out the cable management. It's not the worst I've seen, but it's also not the best either. You can see they are using these Velcro straps to kind of keep some of the cables together. I always like when they kind of wrap the cables and bring them into one bunch, though I do think this looks a little bit nicer than zip ties. And you can see all the cables go into the right side of the frame here, so they run internally into the frame. We also have the Himiway branding right here on the head tube, and we have some mounting points for accessories right here, 4 bolts, 2 on each side. Let's move on to the cockpit of this bike. So we do have the Tektro hydraulic levers again, feel really nice, definitely an upgrade from mechanical disc brakes. Once you feel hydraulic, you definitely can notice the difference, and of course, they just are easier to pull with your hands as well. We do have the faux leather grips that we see on so many electric bikes. Now, if you do find that these are kind of loosening up and moving on you, you can opt for some locking grips from Ergon that actually work with the throttle. Let's actually move on to the right side and talk about the throttle. So right hand twist grip throttle, I personally prefer a twist grip compared to a thumb throttle, though you just need to be aware, of course, that the throttle can sometimes accidentally be hit when you're kind of stepping on this electric bike. So just something to be aware of. The bike does come with this bell. And we have the Shimano Sys index shifter that we see on many electric bikes, really at price points all the way down into the $1,000 range. It gets the job done, though I do prefer the more trigger shifters that are located underneath. All right, let's go ahead and go through the controls on this bike. And just a note that this cell phone mount is the one that I use for all my reviews. This is not included. So you have a power button, a light button, and an information button. I'll go ahead and hit the power. Display comes on, and I have to say it's a very simple display, but I do like that it's nice and large, and it's actually very easy to read during the daylight. It's actually pretty sunny right now and no issues reading the screen. That's something, of course, that I really like. Battery capacity in the top left hand corner, pedal assist in the top right, so we have 0 through 5, though you can customize that, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. Miles per hour front and center, and when you're using the bike, there is a power indicator on the top left-hand corner right underneath the battery as well. We have odometer in the bottom, and hitting the information button is going to give you additional information here. So we have trip odometer, ride time, and back to odometer. And then we also have max speed, average speed, and back to current speed. Moving back to the controls, I actually like that they have a dedicated light button. That's always handy. Makes it easy to remember which one to hit. Some of them have button combinations. We are going to go into the advanced settings here, but I just want to note that the instruction manual is definitely very valuable if you want to go into the advanced settings. We'll just go through a few things here. And of course, I always recommend whatever electric bike you're buying, be sure to read through this and pay special attention to any information about storing the battery, charging the battery. Those things are really helpful, especially for new e-bike owners. All right, so the way we get into the advanced settings, and there's actually a couple different advanced settings. We'll start and go through the first one where you can actually change the number of pedal assist levels as well as the power at each level. So I'm going to hold the pedal assist up and down button at the same time. And this is the screen where I believe you can clear out your trip settings, but actually I'm going to hold the pedal assist up and down button again. It's going to ask for a password, and at least on my bike, the password is 0, 5, 1, and 0. And now we're into the advanced settings. Now you really don't want to change anything here unless you know what you're doing, and that's why I recommend reading the manual. But I'm actually going to go into SCA, and you can see here, this is what it gives you for modifications to the levels of pedal assist. So we have 0 to 5, that's what comes standard. You can change it to 1 to 5, 0 to 7, 1 to 7, 0 to 9, 1 to 9, and 1 to 9 is the last setting. Now what is cool, I'm actually going to go back and make it 0 to 5, confirm it with the I button, and this is actually where you can set how much power you're going to get at each pedal assist level. Now I really like this, of course, for customization. You can see in pedal assist level 1, they're giving you 38% of the power of the motor, so some people might want to turn that down. Actually, in the upcoming first-person riding footage, I actually leave all these settings stock except for one, which I'll point out here, but you can change these up or down. So I can leave it at 38 and cycle through. There's pedal assist level 2, giving me 49. Pedal assist level 3, 59, 4, 67, and 5, I actually changed this from 96 to 99, so I'm basically getting the full power in pedal assist level 5. So we'll go ahead and exit this. I'm back here at the main screen, so I'm going to actually hold the pedal assist up and down button at the same time, again. And instead of holding those two buttons again, I'm going to actually hold the I button and pedal assist down. All right, and again, the password. And this is all in the manual as well and gives step-by-step instructions, 0510. And now it's giving me the setting to change the tire size, which you don't want to mess with. But if I hit I, I'm actually going to get the top speed. So I actually already went ahead and overrode this. It comes with the top speed of 21, 22 miles per hour, right around there, but you can change this up to 40 kilometers per hour. So those are the two settings that I wanted to share about this bike. And of course, stay tuned for our first-person riding footage where we check out how powerful this motor really is. Just a note on these handlebars, they are pretty much straight handlebars. They do have a slight swoop to them, and there is no adjustable stem. Now, riding this electric bike, you definitely lean over a little bit more than some electric bikes that perhaps have a more upright riding position. Now, of course, that's personal preference. If you want a more upright riding position, I'd highly recommend starting with an adjustable stem here, and then if you wanted to buy different handlebars, you could do that as well. So just keep in mind more of an aggressive stance on the Himiway Zebra. Now, I do like pointing out all the design aesthetics. This frame actually looks really nice. I was really impressed by this white color, kind of more of a pearl white. We have zebra here, and of course the design of a zebra. Bottle cage bosses right there, really like that. Easy access for a water bottle or perhaps a folding lock. And we have Himiway down here in the rear as well. Now we're going to skip the battery for now. I'll come back to that towards the end of the walk around, but just wanted to point out the charger port here. You can charge the battery both on and off the bike. Now, many people looking at this electric bike think it might be a mid-drive with this big compartment here. If I'm not mistaken, this is actually going to be where the controller is located, which is nice because you do have easy access. In case there were to be any maintenance needed, you're going to be able to pull this off and mess with the cables or put in a new controller. That's perhaps going to be easier to maintain than perhaps a controller that's located up here. All right, moving on to pedals. We have the Wellgo pedals that come on so many electric bikes. If you want to upgrade them, you definitely can get something with a bigger platform or more grip. Again, check out our electric bike accessories list. Like most electric bikes, we have a very beefy kickstand, and of course, it's not going to come in contact with the pedals when you're moving it around. And you can see the cables here underneath the Himiway Zebra here. They just have a pretty small hole where all of these cables come out. Try to get a shot of that. Now, I've seen this a few times before. We have the motor cable on the left side, and actually this cable comes in between the dropouts and that rear disc rotor. Actually, right here, that's where the motor cable comes in. So it's nice and protected. I actually kind of like that change. And of course, we have the rear Tektro hydraulic disc brakes over here. We have a nice torque arm here for the rear axle. Really like that. Keep in mind, up front, you do have a quick release, so it's going to be easier to remove the front wheel compared to the rear wheel. And I really like to see the torque arms on electric bikes just for increased safety. And of course, we also have the rear light cable coming in here. Again, rear plastic fender coming underneath the very large rear rack here. Now, Himiway kind of includes these nicely looking wood platforms for the rear rack. Now, just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea, I'll maybe throw my phone on here and just look how wide this rear rack is. It's actually taller than my phone. And so it's a very sturdy rear rack, which I like. And of course, you have the rear light. Now, what I really like about this rear light is the lights are not turned on, but if I hit the rear light, it actually starts flashing. So it does go on with the rear brake. And then of course, if I turn the lights on, the light in the rear is going to be always on. And then if I hit the brakes, it is going to flash. So actually pretty decent rear light. Definitely better than the average rear light that I see on many electric bikes. Okay, let's move on to the other side of the bike. Shimano Altus rear derailleur, a step up from the super entry level Shimano components, but this is a component that we see on many electric bikes. Gets the job done, and you can adjust it here with the barrel adjuster. And they do include a derailleur guard. Just note that at least mine did not ship with this on, so you actually have to install it. But it is nice to have some additional protection for the derailleur, especially if you're going to be taking this bike off-road. 7 speeds back here and 14 to 28 teeth. And in the front, we have a single walled chainring with 46 teeth. And I just want to give you a good look at that Himiway motor. Now, this is a different motor than what was included on their Himiway Cruiser. And it's a unique design as well. You can see kind of the motor. I don't know if it's due to the dropouts, but it just is very wide in here, and they kind of have it taper on the left side here by that disc brake. So different design than I've seen. Again, stay tuned for our first person riding footage and we'll see what this new motor can do. And on the right side here, you just have the derailleur cable because of course the motor cable is on the other side. Now, I would have liked to see a chainstay protector here to protect this really nice kind of pearl white frame. You can check out our electric bike accessories list and buy some tape here, and that'll just prevent your nice frame from getting scratched up when this chain bounces around. And I also wanted to point out with the Step-Thru frame, they just have this huge reinforcement here. This bike is just built, almost overbuilt in my opinion, compared to some other electric bikes that I've reviewed. Let's move on to the saddle. Pretty average from what I see from many electric bikes. If you want something a little bit more comfortable, check out our electric bike accessories list for some of the seats that I see most people purchase. And if you want even more comfort, I highly recommend a suspension seat post. So be sure to check out our electric bike accessories list, just in case those fat tires and front suspension aren't enough for you. Let's remove this massive battery, 48 volt, 20 amp hour battery. One of the selling points of this electric bike. At this price point of $2,000, you're not going to find too many electric bikes with this amount of capacity. And in fact, it's actually a bit surprising they're able to fit this big of a battery in the frame here. I'll go ahead and remove it. Now, in most of these batteries that enter through the bottom of what I'll call the down tube here, I usually say it's a little bit of a learning curve, but not super difficult to remove and replace the battery. But this one is just so massive. It definitely takes a little bit of practice to be able to maybe not take out the battery, but definitely put it back in. So turn the key to the left here, and there's a little notch here. Not sure if that's going to show up on video, but if I turn that, the battery is going to drop, and you can see it comes in contact with the fender there. And if I turn the front wheel, it makes it a little bit easier. So you can just see how massive this battery pack is. It does have a LED indicator, so you can get a general idea of the current capacity or how much battery you have left. Again, 48 volt, 20 amp hours. And as I mentioned, the battery can be charged both on and off the bike. There's the charger port on the battery. Okay, I'll go ahead and put the battery back in here again with that front wheel slightly turned. Try to get the bottom in first. And that might have been one of the easiest times for me to put that battery back in place. So maybe that's a good tip. Turn the wheel if you're buying this electric bike and need to remove the battery and put it back in. All right, with that, let's get into some first-person riding footage and see what this bike can do. Okay, first-person riding footage on the Himiway Zebra. Now, as I talked about, I did go ahead and override the speed to the maximum allowed, which is 40 kilometers per hour. And this is stock with the settings as far as the pedal assist, how much power you get at every assist level, so just keep that in mind. Got the speedometer app by Coolnix. First test will be throttle only. Here we go, 3, 2, 1, throttle. There's 5, 6, 8, 13, 14, 17, there's 21, 23. Display is reading 24.9, it looks like. And it looks like I'm topping out at about 24 miles an hour here on throttle alone. Now I will say when I first received the bike, the top speed was right around 21, 22. Usually with throttle only, it would get up to 21 or 22 and then kind of back off a little bit, sometimes hitting 20. So right around there is at least how the bike shipped to my house. Now keep in mind a class 2 electric bike will top out at 20 miles per hour with the throttle. And of course you can adjust the settings in the display to get that exact if you want to be sure that you are following the regulations wherever you live. I definitely recommend you follow any local laws and regulations. Most people do ask me though, how fast these bikes can go, and so I do kind of put them to the test. Okay, next I'm going to turn pedal assist off. Now this is a very heavy fat tire electric bike, so I'm actually gonna have to shift down here. I was in a very high gear. That's typically how we ride our electric bikes. So I'm in third gear here, still putting in some of my own effort, going about 7 miles an hour. Now with most electric bikes that I review, usually pedaling on a flat surface like this, it's not too bad to pedal, though keep in mind this is a fat tire electric bike. It's got a big beefy frame on it, and of course those tires increase rolling resistance. So it would be easier to pedal perhaps a more city-oriented bike if, for instance, you do run out of battery. Of course, I hope that never happens to you, but it can be done. But hills are going to be a very big challenge and maybe almost impossible depending on the hill. Let's go through the various pedal assist levels. Now just keep in mind, of course, you can change the amount of power you get at each level, and of course you can also change how many pedal assist levels that you get. We'll start off here in pedal assist level 1, and I am in first gear, but I'm going to have to shift up here into probably third gear, pedaling at a pretty leisurely cadence, going about 11 miles an hour or so. Feels pretty good. I will say that if you're starting from a dead stop, pedal assist 1 giving you about 38%, again, the way the bike comes shipped, 38% of the power of the motor might be a little bit much for some people. You might want to turn that down to maybe 10 or 20%, and then maybe reserve the higher pedal assist levels if you really want maximum power. So let's go ahead and change to pedal assist level 2. Definitely feel an increase of power there, hitting about 14, 15 miles an hour. I do need to shift up here. Fifth gear feels pretty good. Again, keeping the nice and leisurely cadence. I try to do what I think most people, how they would want to ride the bike, putting in some effort, but not a ton. Going about 15 miles an hour. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 3. Again, feel that motor. You might even be able to hear it in the video. And I would need to shift up here to probably 7th gear here. We're going about 18 miles an hour, and I still feel some resistance on the pedal, so I'm putting in some effort. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 4. Again, feel the motor even more. Going about 20 miles an hour here, 22 according to the GPS, and 21 according to the display. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 5. I did turn, this is the only one I turned up to make sure it's giving me 100% of the power of the motor. It was previously at 96 as the bike was shipped. So I'm going 23, 24 miles an hour. Not surprising given throttle only was about that speed as well. And I think 24 miles per hour is going to be the max speed on this bike. And again, I override it just to show you the power of the electric bikes. I don't necessarily recommend you do so. Be sure to follow all local laws and regulations in your area. And yeah, looks like 24 miles an hour. So same top speed, pedal assist versus throttle, not surprising. All right, so we know what this bike can do on flat ground, but let's see how it can do on our large hill climb test. Okay, hill climb test on the Himiway Zebra. We'll put a picture of this hill on the screen because it looks so much smaller on the GoPro. We'll also throw up the specs of the hill so you can get an idea of just how steep it is. And our first test will be throttle only. And we'll see what this bike can do. And this is the hill that we test out all of our electric bikes that we review on, so you can compare and contrast different models. And I'm kind of curious myself. We'll get up to speed here. Again, that 24, 25 miles an hour or so. I did pump up the tires to 20 PSI. They list a max of 30. All right, hill starting, going down to 20 miles an hour. And really anything over 15 or around 15 is pretty impressive. We're at 15 now as a minimum speed. 14, just for a second. And we were at about 80% battery. So this is kind of what I expected for this bike, minimum speed of 14 miles an hour. Lots of the 750 watt motors that peak higher are around that range. So no problem for this new motor to make it up this hill. Though of course, I always recommend saving some battery and pedaling up hills. Though with a 20 amp hour battery, maybe you really don't need to worry about that. So I'm actually going to head back down the hill and then I will record going up this hill while pedaling. Okay, hill climb test while pedaling. I'm just gonna give myself a little bit of throttle so I can shift down here. And I will also go in the lowest pedal assist mode. And we'll see what this bike can do. No problem stopping on the way down with those nice Tectro hydraulic disc brakes. But just keep in mind it is a heavy bike, so bike plus rider definitely takes a little bit to stop you, but I hit 30 miles an hour and yeah, the brakes were still able to stop me just fine. All right, spinning my legs nice and easy in first gear, going about 10 miles an hour, 9. It's getting a little bit steeper now, but I think I could keep this up, this whole hill, without working too terribly much. And conserving the battery. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 2. So I feel like the gearing, at least on the low end, is pretty nice, at least for me as a rider. I could shift up here now. Second gear, third gear, maybe even fourth gear, pedal assist level 2. That feels pretty good. Leisurely cadence, putting in some effort, but not a ton. That's usually like how I like to ride. Pedal assist level 3, going about 14 miles an hour. I could maybe shift up to fifth gear. Pedal assist level 4. Fifth gear still feels plenty comfortable there. And of course, pedal assist level 5. And I didn't feel the motor kicking on anymore in some of those higher pedal assist levels. And we were hitting the 15 or so miles an hour that we saw with the throttle test. And now the hill's kind of coming to an end. So it seemed like it didn't matter a whole lot whether you were in, for sure, pedal assist 4 or 5. But nice to know that if you really want to conserve battery, you can pedal assist level 1 and shift all the way down. And again, just keep in mind with cadence sensor electric bikes, as long as your legs are spinning, the motor is going to be helping you out. All right, with that, let's get into the third-person riding footage, and I'll give you my concluding thoughts on the Himiway Zebra. Himiway had a lot riding on their newest launch of e-bikes. Not only because the company focuses solely on fat tire e-bikes, but also because the Himiway Cruiser was such a big success. The Zebra at $19.99 certainly has a number of benefits over the Cruiser at $15.99. A slightly larger battery that is integrated into the frame, the nice Tectro hydraulic disc brakes, upgraded motor, and a pretty impressive payload capacity of 400 pounds with its stronger frame. On the flip side of the stronger frame and larger battery capacity, of course, is the weight of the bike itself. I weighed the Zebra Step-Thru at 88 pounds, and while as someone who rides tons of e-bikes, I had no problem, folks considering this e-bike, or really any e-bike, should factor in whether they can handle that kind of weight. Some other highlights for me on this e-bike, besides the ones already mentioned, were the massive rear rack, and I really like the customization of the display that is also easy to read. We chose to review the Step-Thru to show off its accessibility, but it's also offered in a gray high-step variation if you prefer. I'm happy to report that at 6 feet tall, I was still able to get full leg extension, and there surely is some adjustability if you're a little bit taller. Himiway notes a height range of 5 feet 1 inches to 6 feet 2 inches on the Step-Thru. One more comment on riding position. The Zebra has a more aggressive feel to it, so if you're looking for a more upright riding position, you may want to consider an adjustable stem. I view the Zebra as a price point bike. It comes priced at the same as many other, I'll call them premium fat tire e-bikes, but just comes better equipped. Included rear rack, large 20 amp hour battery, and the more powerful than most 750 watt motor. Range is quoted at 60 to 80 miles, though most e-bike companies are a little ambitious with their estimates. We might have to put that to the test in a future video. Himiway also notes that their batteries are using 5,000 milliamp hour Samsung or LG cells, good for 80% capacity after 1,000 charges. There's no doubt that Himiway has attracted a loyal following, but I'm always curious how well some of these companies support their customers. So if you own a Himiway, let us know in the comment section below how your experience has been. Hopefully that will help out others looking at their e-bikes. In my opinion, this is a compelling e-bike, but that is meaningless if you don't have a company that is responsive, backs up their warranty, offers replacement parts for purchase if needed, and of course can get them to you in a reasonable time frame. So if you've had your eyes on a fat tire e-bike capable of handling all sorts of terrain, particularly a fat tire e-bike with more power and large battery capacity, the Zebra is certainly worthy of consideration. And if you do decide to buy any Himiway e-bike and found our reviews helpful, we certainly appreciate it if you use the link in the description before you make your purchase. Thanks for your support and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.